Hello friends, welcome to Acharya 90 FM, your own radio. Myself Tejaswini, and today in our Business Mantra segment, we have invited Mr. Charudatt Pande. Charudatt, welcome to Acharya 90 FM radio station.
Thank you so much, Tejaswini, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure interacting with you.
Yeah. So let me give you a small introduction about Mr. Charudatt Pande. He helps million entrepreneurs and professionals to accelerate their growth by developing a digital mindset. So today we'll be discussing his journey as an entrepreneur and how he guides the people. So we'll know more about his business. First of all, how you started. I would like to know how you started. What made you to think to become an entrepreneur?
Okay, it's a great question. Thank you for the bouncer up front, or maybe a Yorker to begin with. But the journey has not been very specific per se. It is a few things that happened. Mm-hmm. So I became a mechanical engineer under the standard 90s scheme of either you become an engineer and doctor. Okay. So my cousin was a mechanical guy, so I also became a mechanical engineer, and then over a period of time I continued only into core engineering for about 8 years before realizing that it would be time for me to look at technology. So my first few parts of technology, including the work that I did IBM, was more into the product lifecycle development applications, PLM. I used to deal in DESO products, and subsequently I moved to DESO. A similar set of technology-related work that happened. The first idea of looking at the larger enterprise per se happened when I joined SAP in 2012. And when I worked with SAP, in those 3 years, I got opportunity to work with 100 odd large enterprises who were using SAP very effectively in ensuring that they are able to get the maximum value out of it. And our role in that enterprise was fundamental to see how we are able to maximize the value for clients. And that is when I realized that not everybody is able to afford services or consulting directly working with SAP or even with the big fours for them to get the real value out of the enterprise systems. And my decision to start was to help these companies get the value that they should be ideally getting from their systems. And that is what triggered the decision to start on my own way back 9 years now.
Yeah, that's great journey. So now I would like to ask you about your Charudatt consultancy, which you are managing director of it. So what exactly the consultancy provides?
Okay, the philosophy of Charudatt is the word itself. Yeah. Charudatt, which is somebody with a good heart, a friend. So this particular enterprise is a well-wisher for entrepreneurs who is going to work with them to see how they would be able to get best out of the setup that they have, what are the right steps that they need to take to grow their business, and what would be the best way forward for them to capture the opportunities that are coming out of the changing global scenarios. So the work starts by seeing what are the new opportunities a business can explore. So we start looking at what is the potential for them to grow. So the first focus happens on the growth side. Once we see that particular potential, we also look at what are the challenges that the enterprise is facing today. They could be in terms of operational part, availability of the data, availability of the right resources for them to grow. So we look at those specific aspects, see what are the right set of solutions that they need. Sometimes it means just some process changes, sometimes it would mean implementing some technology. Sometimes it would mean a transformation in terms of attitude, particularly the ingredients exist, but people need to start looking at the things from a different perspective. So we look at those specific things and we help companies make those particular transitions and realize their potential.
As I said earlier, you have been accelerated the growth of developing as a digital mindset of various entrepreneurs, but you have delivered 25 plus business projects. So I would like to know what are the business projects, which sector of businesses you have developed or help them to develop their business. Which are the business projects?
Okay, so I'll give you 3 different examples covering 3 different aspects of the business. One of the company that we worked in came back to us with an absolute survival issue. So they were losing money to the tune of about 6 lakhs per month, and the promoters were wondering if it makes sense for them to continue the business or at some point in time they need to stop. And this was entirely the scrap and gone up to about 38%, and wherein the whole company was unviable. The manufacturing itself was unviable. So we looked at what were the challenges that they were facing. We did a complete process study, did the time and motion study at the plant, identified what were the specific problem sets, and then we implemented a technology honestly that technology out there was just a simple Google Sheet.
Oh.
So we implemented a Google Sheet because the company was already in loss. So there was no point in asking them for making any additional investment.
Yeah.
We implemented a simple Google Sheet, but we ensured that we were able to capture all the required data. We made those respective people responsible for each of the tasks, and we brought down that whole wastage by 15%. And again, the conversion cost. So within first 6 months when we were not there in the year, the company had lost around 40 lakhs, and in next 5 months we were able to recover that particular loss. So company was able to grow, and now we are looking at implementing a formal system. This is one on the operational side. The other aspect that I would like to share with you is the second company, which is a very large enterprise, which is doing getting its entire product contract manufactured from various companies. So the company is very big; they have their huge supply chain, but all the products get manufactured from different. To be precise, 9 different contract manufacturers, and the plans go from the OEM. Accordingly, the people manufacture, and then they give it to them. So the entire planning, everything happens based on the OEM work, and the planning and everything happens locally at that level. And that's why we were seeing a lot of variations in the plan, and these particular variations were leading to a lot of supply chain inventory happening at various levels. So we implemented a comprehensive system there, and that particular system ensured that they were able to bring down the variation from 30% to 10%, and they were able to save about 2 crores in the inventory part, and that worked on the other part. The third company that is a MNC, which is implementing in SAP, but when the local instance of SAP was carved in India, that got carved as a process engineering company compared to a regular manufacturing industry, and that particular thing resulted in the issue wherein a lot of inventory was not getting captured, and they were also facing trouble in getting the government incentives because the data was not correctly captured. So we reconfigured the SAP system itself to get the complete output. So across various enterprises or various sizes, we have been able to work and help companies do the right thing. Also, a very different example on the sales side wherein I've been working. This is one of the most exciting portal that I'm seeing around, and I believe that that's a thing that we'll talk about. The portal is Shastrafy, and we are also talking about how we will be able to build up and scale up this particular portal and see what is the next level it can go. So the things are happening on the business expansion, customer acquisition side, as well as on the operation on the contract manufacturing side. So this is the complete scope at present.
Yeah, that's great. But I would like to know your journey with IBM and SAP also, SAP, yeah.
Yes.
So what exactly, because companies also they have we have the software updation program, so I think you must be also needing to update yourself and your knowledge also. So in point of that view, how you develop yourself and how you develop the softwares?
Oh, thank you so much for this question, because coming back from the core industry to an enterprise like IBM was a huge shift for me personally, because I came in, the reason for me to leave my earlier assignment and move into a larger enterprise, particularly IBM, was to see as to how large enterprise works. And IBM, for the first time in my entire career, exposed me to what a global organization is all about. So the information and the trainings that were available were amazing, and that gave me a very good platform to learn, and there was no restriction on learning. The best part in IBM was that you had a lot of courses which were available, and you were free to learn whatever that you wanted. There was no restriction
and to
at all.
Experiment,
I experimented a lot, so I learned how different cultures work. The fundamental thing that differentiated all the other companies from IBM, particularly for me from at that age, was their ability to make you part of a global setup. So there were a lot of courses that they conducted on cultural sensitivities, how you should be culturally neutral, how you should be able to work with people coming in from different geographies, why you don't need to be judgmental about people that you need to look at it, and how do you need to be prepared to accept the things the way people see it. I think that was one fundamental mindset shift that made a huge difference. Second part in IBM that I learned was working across a huge collaborative teams. So IBM, when you see, there are jokes that would run around that there would be 10 people who would walk into a meeting and they are not starting the meeting because the guy who's actually running the show is not there. Because that's the client rep. So what we realize is that even in the larger enterprise, how do you collaborate with multiple people, but still you don't lose the significance of the person who is managing the account. So that kind of a work collaboration was something a huge learning for me. SAP on the other side was far more on understanding how the enterprises work and why do enterprises choose system. My entire journey today, if I need to see, was primarily driven by whatever that I have been able to acquire in SAP. Because SAP gave me the idea of why a company chooses an enterprise system, how do they look at the right return on their ERP systems, how as an OEM we can help them understand those returns, how we can help them get those returns, and then how different solutions meet different needs, how do you go and work with different stakeholders, what are different point of view for each of the stakeholder to look at the same system. This is the kind of knowledge that I gained, and that is what has helped me survive in the market so far. But currently, if you look at it primarily from the technology perspective, you need to spend at least an hour every day. If you are not able to spend an hour every day on looking at the technology, probably you would be outdated next day. It is moving at that space, things are changing at that space. There is an amazing competition.
Now we are moving from 4G to 5G and more than.
So things like 4G to 5G, that take the speed that's coming in, things like AR and VR. Now you look at the impact of ChatGPT. We all knew something like that existed and something that can be done. But the moment you have that application, everybody is wondering what's going to happen with me now. The whole content that you were required to search for so long, now it's take time. If you look at even some beautiful application, somebody had put in about 200-page thesis and they wanted a summary. They fed it into ChatGPT and got that summary in about say 10-15 minutes, which ideally would have taken them about 3-4 days to get into those 240 words, right? So this is what is happening. So there are some beautiful advantages of what can happen. At the same time, will it kill the whole original thinking part? That's a question. But eventually, once the technology is there, you need to balance it out. I think it's important for us to understand the technology, accept whatever is the best coming in, and then neglect these are the deficiencies because they would come by default.
Yeah, definitely. We'll continue our podcast with a short break. We'll take a short break. Welcome after the short break. We are listening to Mr. Charudatt Pande, the business coach. Sir, now I would like to ask you, you have been conducting management audit for larger engineering, cement, various industries.
Yes.
So what is exactly the management audit which you make? Because we don't know what is, we know being a commerce student, we know what is audit, but we don't know what is management of audit.
Okay, so the management audit was something that came in as a very pleasant surprise to me. So when I stepped out of SAP in 2014, I joined one of the oldest cost audit firms in the country, and I started doing, so together we were doing more of a SAP implementation projects. We were doing a lot of process and systems correction, primarily when the audit team started wondering if I could travel with them, because I came from a mechanical background, and I could help them convert the mechanical parameters into audit parameters and explain the audit requirements to the operations team. That's how the journey started, and then eventually I realized that if I'm able to contribute to this particular space, the whole I can take the whole enterprise system to a completely different level. So when we talk about the management audit complements the statutory audit. The management audit covers assessing what is your ideal capacity, look at all the costs that you have incurred in previous year or any particular over a period of time. Financial year. And categorize those costs into what are the direct costs, what are the indirect costs, what are the overheads, what are the selling and distribution expenses, how do you look at your finance cost, and then identify based on this your cost structure and your capacity and your process, what would be the ideal cost of your product. Okay, then you also need to see, basically we're moving at saying that okay, with this particular parameter, if I run at the ideal one, this is what is my cost. Then based on your regular operation that you're doing, what is the true and fair cost of your product, and then compare that with your sales failure to see what is your actual profitability. Okay, this particular method of approaching any particular enterprise gives you the exact profitability of your enterprise based on an operation for a specific period that you're looking at it. So it is very important for you to complement your existing statutory audit, because statutory happens mostly from a reporting perspective, with a management audit for you to get the real insights on what is your profitability, how effectively you are able to run your business, what is your operational efficiency, and that also gives you the idea regarding what is it that you can do within your existing conditions to improve your profitability and also to improve your productivity.
Yeah, but my question could be, how is it different with management audit? How is it different from we do, all the companies, they do market research, then they do surveys and all,
Yes.
various companies. So how is it different from management audit?
Okay, so management audit is completely internally focused. So I'll give you an example. It's a very nice example that you will realize. So there was a company based in Daman who had grown over a period of time. They had total 8 plants, and within these 8 plants, they had 3 different ways of manufacturing the same product.
Okay.
Because when it started 30 years back, it was a manual operations, then semi-automated, and then they had a state-of-art plant. So while you are producing the same product, based on where you are producing that particular product, your cost of production changes. Because in a larger setup, when there is a completely automated system, they could produce a few lakh components per day, whereas on the other side, they were able to produce only few hundred or few thousand.
Yeah.
But so it made sense for them to produce some smaller quantities on one particular plant and the larger quantities in the other plant. In this particular period, when we started doing the cost audit and we did the complete assessment of what is the cost that would come per plant, and then loaded it on the products to see what is the actual manufacturing cost per particular product, and then we compared that with the sales value. What we realized is that at say around 2008-9 period, when there was a little the sluggish period in the economy, that point in time they had got an export order, and that export order they had got at a very discounted rate because they wanted to keep the plant running. Now, over a period of time, the client kept on ordering a lot of volumes from them at the same price. Compared to that particular price, they were selling at a higher price within the country, whereas they were exporting at a lower price. And when we did, what we realized is that this 12% of their entire production which they were exporting, they were actually exporting with a 2% loss.
Oh.
Because nobody looked at them there, and the client was paying them very promptly because he was getting it at a very low rate, right? So the moment they keep the material shipment, they would immediately pay them. So that's why, because they were getting the cash flow, they never realized that we were doing the entire 12% of our business at 2% loss. So these are the insights that you would get when you get into a management audit. Look at your product profitability and then see what is your client profitability.
But does it applicable to small scale and big scale industries? The industries? It is
applicable across all the industries. I believe that while large companies do have the cost auditors and or even the finance controllers to come and explain with the same, it is the smaller companies who don't do that, and that's when they struggle a lot. What happens, I'll give an example. This is a classical case of what we term as a one particular product line discounting the other products. So you have one particular product wherein you are making very good money, and then you are producing the other products at loss. So sometimes you may sell them as a product mix because that's a requirement, right? A classical case study is that even it is very widely believed that Parle-G, when it is sold, it's not sold at a profit. But when Parle-G is sold in the market, it is sold along with 10 different products of Parle, which ensures that Parle gets a profitability out of the sale anyway. But that's a conscious business call. At that level, they do the analysis and take those decisions. For the smaller enterprise, the entrepreneur does not get into this particular part, and that's when he makes profit in certain deals and profit in certain loss in certain other ones. So the day his mix shifts, he's in trouble. That's why it is important for him to establish this at every level.
And I would like to ask you, where does India stands in the digitalization? As we say, we are slowly moving towards digitalization. So where does India stands compared to abroad cities?
Okay, now the whole digitalization, if you see, is moving in a completely different way in India compared to globally. There are two reasons. First reason is that globally people started using computers for a very long period of time, and then they had the systems, they had different bit, and then they evolved over a period of time. The availability of manpower and the cost of manpower globally is very different compared to India. So that's when they took those decisions fundamentally as a more of a requirement and then moving. But they implemented the systems, and those systems are running fine. But are they changing the data and all? To what extent they are doing? It varies across the different segments within the global economy also. What is happening in India is, we had a lot of conventional business, and now if you see, there are a lot of new generation entrepreneurs who are coming in. And these people by default are tech enabled. And well, some people believe that jugaad is not the right word, but ultimately that's what happens in the Indian industry. So I believe that we always jump the standard evolution curve. So the typical evolution curve that people talk about the digital transformation is not applicable to India. India is doing its own digital transformation. Now, if you look at anywhere from rickshawala, practically in Mumbai, you can travel entire week together without carrying absolutely any cash.
Yeah.
Right? So the adoption of things like payment gateways, what people are looking at, has happened at a very different level in India. And that is moving the Indian digital transformation in a different way compared to other part. Now you look at WhatsApp in India.
Yeah.
So people doing on WhatsApp business, even the small businesses, particularly women entrepreneurs doing small business on WhatsApp, even your grocery shops, your small hotels, small restaurants, many of them are doing their business using WhatsApp without much of investment.
Yeah.
Right? So the transformation at the smaller level is very different. However, at the larger enterprise level in India, that transformation will need to be forced. The reason being, in India we are lot more people centric by nature.
Yeah,
So what happens here by default is that if somebody has worked with you for many years, that particular loyalty or the fact that you have that experience counts far more compared to your ability to contribute to the business at this very specific point. So that thing doesn't happen in India, and that is what is going to create a bit of that change management is going to be a little difficult, because managing those senior executives to look at the new way of life and changing is going to be different. So that's the one particular thing that I see in the corporate India for change, and particularly also on the mid-sized businesses, because if those entrepreneurs have grown and there are people who have been there with for 25-30 years, they tend to respect them a lot, and they don't want to rock the boat. They want to ensure that the technology is not creating disruption for them in their regular operations. So managing that particular change is going to be tricky. But eventually it would happen, because even there within their homes now, their kids or their grandkids are also doing it in a different way. So the change that is happening at the social level will compel these people to change. But it's going to be a bit of an extra.
Yeah, there was a havoc for that GST, to get your company registered for GST, get your shop registered for GST. That was a big havoc. Even to file the IT, now also there are a lot many things we have to do to file an ITR.
Yes.
So let me know what are the everything has the advantages and disadvantages.
Yes.
So what are the disadvantages we are facing in digitalization today?
Okay, I'll tell you the biggest digitalization, lot of biggest disadvantage of digitalization that lot of people feel in India particularly is the availability of information. Because what has happened for variety of reasons and variety of experiences that people have got, in every business there has been a lot of pockets of information and a secrecy which is maintained. So only one particular set of people know that they have this information. And the lot of promoters have got used to the mindset wherein they are going to keep certain information with one guy, then somebody is competing with him, so he has the other set of information. So nobody has the whole picture. And the moment you talk about the technology, you would need to offer everybody the transparency. That is the challenge, and that is perceived as a disadvantage by many. Unfortunately. But if you look at the way the things are moving and the availability of information across all the levels, the things are going to get in public domain anyway. So it is now the time for entrepreneurs to change their mindset towards this particular bit and change. I'll tell you particularly from a transformation or the advantage perspective, even a very simple thing like if you start looking at your customer data and do a basic ABC analysis of to which customer how much you have sold in last 3 years, are the who were your top 5 customers in last 3 years, do they remain your top customers now? Even this level of basic analysis will tell you how things are changing in your business. And lot of time people are so engrossed in their day-to-day operation that they don't even conduct this kind of basic analysis. Or the cost and the profitability is altogether different game. But even on the sales side, the basic data is also not analyzed. So the moment you talk about digitalization, it would give you all the transparency that you need, all the data points that you need to make informed decisions. And it is a must when we are changing into a new generation wherein now we have to move from the intuition based decision to data driven decisions. Because things are changing at such a fast rate that nobody can say that I know everything. It is not going to happen. You are going to get new people who will not look at the 25-30 year in your organization. They may basically be there for a year, see how the company is moving. If they see the progress, if they see them getting the right role, they will hang in. If they are not there, then they would look at for the next opportunity. So if you want to get the right talent, if you want to ensure that your people are able to make right decisions based on the data, and you have the information to see which decisions have gone right or wrong and correct them over a period of time, there is absolutely no choice but to go digital.
Yeah. We'll take one more break here and we'll continue with the broadcast. You keep listening, Acharya 90 FM, your own radio.
Acharya 90 FM, 90 FM.
After the short break, we are listening to Acharya 90 FM, your own radio, and we are having podcast with Mr. Charudatt Pande, business coach. Sir, now I would like to ask you, you have been mentor in the Great Entrepreneur Program and Indian Leadership Academy, and you have been speaker for Maratha Chamber of Commerce, IMC, Chem Excel, and Thane Belapur Industrial Estate Association, and you have been on board of various advisory committees. So how exactly you train the entrepreneurs, how you make them digitalized? So I would like to know what exactly you provide in your entrepreneurship program.
Sure. So I fundamentally help an entrepreneur understand what are his limiting beliefs towards technology. What has happened in India is that over a period of time, a lot of people invested in technology. They did not get the returns on that they were expecting on the technology, and because they did not get those specific returns, then they felt that probably technology is not for me. Sometimes some of their friends did not get the returns in their part. So there is, if my friend has not got it, why would I get it? Right? So that is how it has happened, and that's why there is a lot of reservation towards tech. So what I help, how I work with the entrepreneurs is a framework I call DIGIT. So this 5-step framework starts with, first step is defining your process. Once you define your process, then you need to identify what are the top challenges that you are facing. Then generate ideas to sort those challenges. Once you have generated those ideas, then implement a system that's going to address those challenges, and then transform your business by measuring whatever that you had planned in the beginning. It's very important in the digital transformation that when you are identifying those challenges, you quantify those challenges, and then ensure that when you are implementing a system, those challenges are particularly addressed, and you measure the output in terms of those specific parameters only, so that you know that this is how much I have invested, and this is the return that I have got against that particular investment. Yeah,
that's great. And I would like to know more. Your title of the book is very interesting, Making Working Capital Work for You. Instead of working for your capital, you are making working capital work for you. Listeners, we have a book from Mr. Charudatt Pande, which you can buy from the market. It's available online also on various portals. So what exactly you have mentioned, what the guidelines you have mentioned in your book? I think it's the first book, or you had published various books ahead?
Yeah, this is the second book. There is one more. So the first book was Surviving in 2020. And when we survived through the 2020, what happened was that everybody was struggling with the working capital because the businesses were disrupted, so the cash flow was disrupted, and everybody was struggling. So when I looked at, when I was delivering the transformation projects, what I realized is that a lot of people were stuck so badly on the working capital, and to get the required working capital, they sourced it from various business. So one of the specific instance, I'll tell you the trigger for this particular book. This business owner had a huge opportunity in warehousing. So he sourced the first one at 12%. The second lot he bought it at 16%, and the third loan that he had taken was at about 21%. Now, if you are running your business with a loan wherein you need to pay 21%, probably you are actually working for the person who has given you the loan rather than working for you. So you are actually running your business to see to it that you are paying your bankers or you are paying the lenders from whom you have taken the money. So it is very important for you to see as to what is my real need. So here in the book basically specifies a framework called ASCOR. So ASCOR starts with assessing what is the ideal working capital that you need. So it is not how much you have deployed. If you are selling item worth 100 rupees, you are buying material worth 80 rupees, and you have a payment cycle of which say about 45 days, then you just need about 150 rupees of max that should be your outstanding, right? If you buy material worth 100 and then you basically keep it for say for 1.5 months 120 rupees, and you get the same terms with your vendor, then you don't really need any working capital except your salary cost and operational cost, right? But it doesn't happen. Over a period of time, we keep on putting in the money into business. And it so happens that at some point in time, the bankers would keep on demanding more and more from us.
Yeah.
Your inventory is on hold, right? Everything is hypothecated, your assets are hypothecated. And if you see the whole cases around NCLT,
Yeah.
most of them have happened because of this particular matter. So the SCOR framework starts fundamentally by assessing what is the ideal working capital that they have. Secondly, you need to define what are the sources of working capital in your business. Is it the inventory, is it the bank, where you have got it? Third, define what is the cost. Now in the cost part, a lot of people believe that I have put in my own money. Okay, so my own investment is that I'm running on this particular part. If you keep the same amount in bank,
Yeah.
it will give you 10%.
Yeah.
If you keep that in investment, say in the market or somewhere, it may give you about say 12 to 15%. Now, if when you put 20 lakhs or 50 lakhs in your business, is it giving you 10% or 12% return? Because if it is not giving you even that much of return, then there is no point in you putting your own money in your business.
Yeah.
So you need to even put a cost to your own money that you have put in, right? Then you get the cost. Then you identify what are the sources for optimizing my working capital. You see if I can negotiate my terms with the client, with the vendors, how do I negotiate with the banks, how do I get various things like even we have the Receivables Exchange of India now, bill discounting, get different things into play and see how you can optimize. Once that is done, then you go and do the final step, which is restructuring. Restructure your contract with the vendors, restructure your working with the your clients, and if you are working with the large enterprises, get them by default into things like RXI, Receivables Exchange, or there are different platforms like M1 Exchange and all that you can do, wherein you can get your bills discounted. Even most of the banks today discount the bills. So use different innovative systems, innovative avenues that are available for you to in your business to see to it that you are able to restructure your part, reduce your cost of capital, and thereby improve your profitability.
Yeah. Pande sir, I would like to ask you, our listeners are even some of the students also.
Yeah.
So, what would you give you guidelines if they want to make future in this business entrepreneurship or any other program related to digitalization? So, what guidelines would you like to give our students who are the listeners?
Particularly for students, I would like them to basically tell them only one thing, that please get real, please get into the industry and see how things happen.
Yeah.
It's very important for you to look at what is the challenge that you will be able to address. I see a lot of particularly tech entrepreneurs who try and work more on the technology compared to identifying what is the problem that they are trying to solve. Because eventually if you want to make a product or you want to make a business out of it, you would need somebody who's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Somebody is going to pay for it only if they have a problem. And only when the problem is sufficiently large enough and your solution is going to give them the returns or the savings particularly or the growth, then only they are going to pay for it.
Okay.
So it's very important for you to start looking at it from a business perspective, market perspective. One thing I've seen is that the kids, particularly today, the college students, they are very open to getting knowledge from multiple sources. So they spend good amount of time on YouTube. A lot of them have their own podcasts that they listen to, right? So they have their own mix. So they have the knowledge. That's a great part. The thing that they need to get is that they need to see what is the problem that I'm solving. And why do I need to start one particular business? The moment they are able to define that why or define that challenge, the rest of the path is assured.
Okay, that's great. And what are your future plans in with respect to Charudatt consultancy? What more projects you are looking forward in coming future?
So I'm looking at democratizing the whole digitalization process. So what I mean by this particular bit is that I am looking at, particularly when I engage, there are limitations to what I can engage as an individual to reaching out. So what I'm looking at is creating more and more of such digitalization agents, people who would be working with enterprises to see how they are able to use technology effectively. So I intend multiplying or rather duplicating myself. That's hopefully the idea of creating more and more people who come from the industry background and then understand the need for technology and able to see how technology can be effectively used. There's a huge potential that we are seeing across, and the mid-sized companies have the absolutely the perfect time today for them to grow. So I'm trying to see how I'm able to reach out to a wider audience, create a larger base, and create a more of an ecosystem of multiple technocrats who would be able to work with those companies and helping them make the real transformation.
Yeah, definitely. And with the mentors like you, we can have a good future ahead in a couple of days. So thank you for joining us today on Acharya 90 FM in the segment Business Mantra. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this great opportunity, and I wish you and the channel all the very best.
Yeah.
And I also wish the listeners a great Independence Day and an amazing year ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. So friends, today in our Business Mantra, we had business coach Mr. Charudatt Pande sir with us, and we will be meeting up with the next guest in our next Business Mantra segment. Till then, keep listening Acharya 90 FM, your own radio. Myself Tejaswini signing off for today. Thank you.
Acharya